Okay, so this question is Dr. Vervaeke, is there a way to help strengthen my memory?
So let's talk a little bit about what memory is and isn't, and what we're actually talking about when we're talking about improving memory, because we have to get away from a lot of misconceptions about memory if we're going to really open ourselves up to cultivating the habits and skills that, and the art that improves memory. First of all, your memory is, the common idea of what your memory is your memory is like a library. And what you do when you want to remember things is you search through the library and you find the missing thing, and then you bring it back and pass it to consciousness. Oh, right. And that's not the case, because you rapidly know when you don't know something. So please tell me King Charles telephone number. I don't know it. You don't go through all your telephone numbers. Is that Prince Charles? Nope. Is that Prince? No. No. You rapidly know when you don't know something. In the library, if the green book is very close to the brown book, it's also close to the yellow book, which is close to the brown book. So if I ask you to give me a word that rhymes with blue, you'll tell me grew or new. And if I ask you to tell me a color like blue, you'll tell me red. So do you find red and grew close to each other? When I say red, do you think, yeah, grew? You don't. So memory doesn't work that way. It's not organized that way. Next thing, your memory is not designed, I'm putting it in quotes like this, to be an accurate recorder of the past. Your memory is designed to be an intelligent predictor of the future, which means your memory will do all kinds of falsification if it improves your chance of dealing with a future situation. So I think I mentioned this. You give people a bunch of random dot pictures. You show them 4, you take it away, and you say, I'm going to show you some ones, and I'm going to ask you if you've seen this before. What I do is I make a mathematical average of the previous 4, which is nothing like the previous 4, but it's a mathematical average, and I hold it up, and people will say, yeah, I saw that one for sure. Because the memory has not been trying to accurately record the past, it's been doing a kind of data compression, predicting what the next dot pattern is likely to be, and the average is a good estimation, so your brain goes, yeah. 49% of eyewitness testimony turns out to be false. Confident eyewitness testimony. Whatever your moral arguments are, I think it's very hard to support capital punishment on the back of the fact that we are that inaccurate about confident. Okay, let me give you an example of this. This happened, case. Woman was watching a TV show. Somebody broke in, a male, and assaulted her. Left, she called the police. And she was able to give a really accurate description of the assailant. It was the person that was on TV. And that was a live broadcast, so they couldn't possibly have been the assailant. But the brain said, face, meaningful to me. Salient, human being attacking me, must have been that person. This is called reconstructive memory. It's massive and it's pervasive, and your memory is just... Another example, the person who discovered this phenomenon, or at least put a lot of, not discovered it, gave a lot of experimental evidence for it, and she got into some really hot water about it. Elizabeth Loftus, she tells this story. One of her cherished family memories is the family was driving somewhere. The car broke down, and the dad went to get some gas. It was going to be quite a while. But by happenstance, they broke down near an ice cream shop. So the family went to the ice cream shop. They had a wonder, and it was just a clear example of how the family and circumstance could turn something horrible into a wonderful, cherished memory. And she loves this memory. And she said, and then she related, she was telling the memory, she told it, she would tell her friends and people she met. And then she told this about in the presence of her family, and they all laughed. And she said, why are you laughing? Why are you besmirching one of my cherished childhood's memory? And they said, that happened 5 years before you were born. She had heard this story growing up, and her memory had reconstructed that she, because she liked this story so much, she must have been in the story. So you're probably wondering if your mother really loved you. So the thing you have to do is you have to, instead of trying to work against that, what you have to do is try and work with it. All right, namely, try and help your brain be an intelligent predictor as opposed to being an accurate recorder. And there's one more thing to know about this, which is you have multiple kinds of memory, but the two that are important for us right here now is long-term memory. This is all that information you store unconsciously, right? Like Napoleon lost at Waterloo. You're not thinking that all day long. Napoleon lost at Waterloo. Right? And what's called working memory. Working memory is what you can actually hold in mind. It's where you go when I ask you to do mental arithmetic. Like, what's 24 times 32? Right? And you're trying to do that and you hold it in mind. And the thing is, you can hold 4 chunks of information in there. So I sometimes do this with people. I wish I had a whiteboard here or a blackboard. I could show it to you. But what I'll do is I'll put up a bunch of letters, very long. I'll show that for a few seconds, and ask people, and then I'll say, turn away, right? And they say, what are the letters you saw? And they get 2 or 3 of the letters. It's long. Then I rewrite exactly the same letters, but they spell the words dog, pig, cow, cat. And now I show the same letters, and I say, now tell me all the letters, and they can do it all. Because the information has been chunked. What a chunk means is different things have been made relevant to each other because of how they're relevant to you. So the way you improve memory is by chunking, because remember the 9 dots? Remember the dot? Your brain is looking not for the specific information. What it's looking for is the meaningful integration from which it can reconstruct what it needs for the current situation. So when you chunk information, the brain goes, ah, right. And if you chunk it so that it's relevant to you. So first of all, you want to chunk your information. Then you want to chunk it in a way that shows what's called transfer appropriate processing. Because your brain is trying to predict the future, your brain is not just storing the information, it's storing how the information is being processed. What that means concretely, for example, if you're studying and you know that how you're going to be tested is you're going to be asked to answer a long essay, study the information, chunk it by practicing writing a long essay. Don't review it. This is the worst thing I'll review my notes. That's called rehearsal. Rehearsal works, but it is the worst strategy. It is like taking a canoe to Europe. Okay, you could get there, but wow. The reason why people like rehearsal and cramming is because it alleviates anxiety, because it's an easy strategy to use. And they confuse anxiety reduction with memory improvement. So you want it. Now, what if the test is going to be short answers? Make up for yourself. The more you generate the questions, make up short answer questions and practice answering them. Get a bunch of people and make up short answer questions for each other. Study in the way you're going to be tested. Study in the way you're going to be tested. If it's multiple choice, make multiple choice questions. That's transfer appropriate processing. You want to do context dependence too, sometimes knowing it as encoding specificity. So here's an example of the experimental data this is based on. You put a whole group of people in a room where they have to learn something, word list or something. You send them away for a week, you ask them to come back, you divide them into 2 groups. Group A gets to go in the same room that it learned, the list, Group B goes in another room. Regardless of all the differences of IQ and study habits, Group A will do better than Group B, about 30% better. Because your brain is also trying to store the context in which the information. So the brain does not store information. It stores chunks of information that are relevant to you. It stores how you're learning the information, and it needs the how you're studying has to be relevant to how you're going to use it. And then it also stores the context in which. So what you need to do is try to study if you can't study in the place where you're going to be tested, go to the room. I kid you not. Try to form a mental image, and while you're studying, form a mental image of the room again and again and again. If you have a particularly difficult thing you're trying to remember, right? Play a piece of music for that. And then when you're in your test situation, remember the music first, and it'll help you call back the information. Study with the pen that you're going to write with in the exam. There is a whole host of things you have to do that do not seem to make sense. I should be putting as much information in my head by reviewing my notes. Okay, everything I'm saying to you is counterintuitive, but it's only counterintuitive because you have that incorrect model of what memory is. Once you have the correct memory model of how memory actually works, that it's largely about attention so that you can intelligently prepare for the future, then all of these strategies, which are called mnemonic strategies, work. So you chunk, and then you chunk your chunks, get chunks, and then figure out how to put them in a chunk. You do transfer appropriate processing, you do encoding specificity. These are the ways to reliably improve your memory. I hope that's helpful. Of course, if everybody does it, then the mean just moves.
I would be perfectly happy if all the students got better grades because they understood the material and remembered the material better.
Yes, yes, yes.
And if that means that the mean is in A, then...
You can do that here. You can? I can't do that at U of T.
I haven't been told otherwise.
Well, you're good. We can't.
Don't want to give anybody any ideas in the administration there, but...
As part of the strategy of resisting mark inflation, we can't, we're only allowed to give a certain proportion of A's. It skews as you go up, right? Like you can give more and more as you go up, but yeah.
So it doesn't matter if, even if theoretically every person
was brilliant
and gave the best possible answer to every question.
I have to somehow divine some way of, this person used red ink, so something like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that bad. I'm being humorous.